Stuart,
Yes.
As we develop the chakra system and strengthen it inside, does there become a point that you transition everyday living from the thinking mind to living from guidance?
I hope so. Larry, yes. Yes, that's the point of developing the chakra system, is to make that kind of transition from living according to the dictates of the mind to just being one with life. You know, you embrace life, you embrace the moment, the present, you know, and that requires a chakra system that is highly developed for a human being to be able to do that. But once that chakra system does develop, it just automatically happens. First of all, you don't spend all your time in your head. And that should be a very significant relief for everybody. And then you just live. You live in the moment. You know, you take care of your responsibilities, you take care of all the things that you have to do, but you don't do it working on this, thinking about 5 years in the future. You do it working on something and you're there totally doing it. You know, I once, years ago, wrote a book called 3 Rivers. I've never published this book. It's an interesting book. And there was a guy in the book who was Uncle George. And he lived in the house of the main character, which was a young kid, 12-year-old kid. And the parents of the 12-year-old kid were driving the kid crazy. You got to work, you got to, you know, the future, what are you going to be? What are you going to be when you're 30? If you don't, you know, take care of you, blah, 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 you're going to be, you know. And Uncle George looks at the parents one day and he says, look, if he's a successful 12-year-old, he'll be a successful 30-year-old. And when that came out of me and I wrote that, it was really a profound statement because it's true. We spend so much of our time either being guilty or unhappy about the past, worrying about, you know, or worrying about the future. And we never live in the moment. And if we do the moment to the utmost of our ability, you know, it carries into the next moment and the next moment. And, you know, 20 years later, we're living in the present. We're doing our life on the most amazing level that a person can do it. But the problem is people, whatever they do in the moment, there's always this thinking in their, well, the future, and they're worried, and their anxiety, and the tension, and what's going to become of me, and et cetera, you know? Or they're guilty about the past and unhappy about what they did and what has become of me. You know? I mean, it's always something that people worry about that keep them from living in the moment. And yet, if we successfully build an inner life that enables us to be strong enough to live in the moment, the future is never a problem. I mean, it's like those guys, you know, Ram Dass, he wrote a book, Be Here Now. And that other guy, who I always forget his name, he wrote The Power of Now. I mean, basically, that's what they're getting at, is they don't talk about the development of a chakra system. But basically, in order to do what they are talking about, which is kind of right on about the way people should live, you got to build an inner life that is strong enough to do it. Otherwise, the mind will always take over and you'll be playing some kind of strange ping pong game with yourself where the thoughts are bouncing from the past to the future, to the past to the future, always missing the one thing that it has to get is the present. And the only way I've learned to build that kind of a system is through the development of an inner life. And, to me, the development of an inner life means the development of a chakra system. You are grounded inside. The heart is open, the throat is quiet, the mind is quiet. You can receive knowledge and wisdom from the universe. You can communicate with compassion and love. All of these things become possible if we build that kind of inner life. And all of these things allow us to live our lives in the moment. And it gets rid of probably 85% of the tension inside people.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome, Larry. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? I mean, this is really an important thing to learn. And you don't learn it intellectually, you learn it by growing into it, organically becoming one with it. And that requires an inner life of great depth, great strength, consciousness. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
I have a small follow-up question, Stuart.
Yes.
Actually, it is about developing also like acceptance, total acceptance of everything or something. But in life you also have a lot of resistance. How do you get this resistance down?
Well, I'm telling you, Paul, if you're grounded and, look, you're a
Yes.
very smart guy. You really are,
Yes.
but you spend so much time in your head. If you would transfer that energy to the chakra below the navel, you will overcome that resistance. You will have balance inside yourself. You'll have quiet inside yourself. You'll begin to see what is real in life, what is an illusion. And the illusions will no longer pull on you. You understand? They'll no longer drive you crazy. You'll be able to deal with them. You can transform illusion into reality by learning how to transform it into something that helps you to grow and have a spiritual life. But again, it requires the development of an inner life that is strong enough to do this. This isn't something that we can do by thinking about it, analyzing it, logically figuring it out. It doesn't work that way. It works because we just are, We have total trust that life is the most extraordinary teacher. We listen to life. We learn what to do, what not to do. We embrace life. And all the creativity that flows through us because we're not stuck inside. We haven't, dammed up all the channels. So whether it's music or writing or just life itself, business or family, it all just flows through. And we can totally adapt ourselves to whatever the moment brings us. Now, I'm not saying this is easy to do. It's not. It took me years to learn how to do this. But the only way I learned how to do it was through developing a chakra system, incredible balance inside, so that most of the things in the world don't throw me off my axis. And this, whatever goes on, it's, all right, what do I learn from this? What can I learn to help me grow because of what's going on in the world? And yes, there are crazy things that go on in the world. War in the Ukraine, and pandemics and, God knows what we've all been through in the last, years. But it's amazing what it has to teach us. I mean, I always said, not always, but in the last year or so, all of this stuff, global warming, pandemics, all this stuff, is just nature sick and tired of what people are doing to it. And it's nature saying to us, when will you learn? You cannot destroy nature and expect to have anything but global warming, pandemics, illness, this, that, the other, wars. And people don't listen. And how do you listen? People have to change inside. If they don't change inside, they're getting exactly what they give off. And this is a rough solution to a rough problem because you're dealing with 8 billion people. And most of them haven't the foggiest idea what a chakra system is, or what they have to do to change so that the world can change. I mean, this is where I arrived in myself, dealing with all these things. Okay, Stuart, your job is to grow. It's to keep opening your heart. It's to keep feeling more gratitude. It's to really understand that God is love. It's to treat the people in your life that way. And I'll tell you, frankly, what comes back to me is miraculous, extraordinary. And then the resistance goes away because instead of fighting and resisting everything, you're learning from it. All right, what do I have to do to change? I mean, I should get up in front of the United Nations and make a speech. They'd probably kick me out of the building, Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome, Paul. Try it, You'll be amazed. Build that kind of inner life. You'll be totally amazed at what will change inside you and the world around you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Is it then also possible to use the will to get out of your head, to not be so much in your head, to use the will for it? I mean, sometimes I seem that to be in the head is something I cannot choose. It chooses me. You understand?
I understand, Paul, but that's why we're meditating here, to try to transform that. We're trying
of course.
that problem. Okay, that's what this class is all about. Trying to fix that problem. Okay.
Okay.
Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? I mean, Paul, I had that problem for years. I couldn't get out of my head. And then the work, eventually things changed. They change. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, thank you, bless you. And there'll be a class on Thursday. And I always end with this, but I like to end with this. And that's just saying thank you to all of you for being here, for participating in this, and for your presence is truly helping me to grow in my life. And I'm very grateful to each and every one of you. So God bless you. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody on Thursday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.